May I come in, sir?
Yes, please do.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
ma'am.
Please take
Morning,
your seats.
sir. Thank you, sir.
You Sadaf.
Yes, sir.
Sadaf, you're comfortable with English as your preferred medium?
Yes, sir. English is.
Sadaf, you can probably notice that your chair is kept at adequate distance. You're around 12-13 feet from all of us. So you'll be feeling safe even if you remove your mask. So would you like to remove that?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Comfortable?
Yes, sir.
So can we start?
Yes, sir.
Sadaf, tell us something about you.
Sir, I belong to Amroha, Uttar Pradesh. I did my schooling from there itself before I moved to NIT Jalandhar to pursue my bachelor in technology in chemical engineering. Afterwards, I worked for 2 years with a US-based bank, and since then I have been preparing full-fledged for UPSC. My hobbies are reading books and traveling.
So Sadaf, can we conclude that you are taking up whatever coming your way, or there is some career path? Because you said that you did chemical engineering,
Yes, sir.
went on to become a banker,
Yes, sir.
now want to become a babu. Why?
Sir, UPSC is something that has always been on my mind since very start. But before taking a plunge into the preparation phase, I prefer to be financially independent, and also I should have a backup. This was something at the back of my mind because I come from a very conservative Muslim family. So having a backup helps because it also provides you a lot of exposure in terms of working with the corporate. So once I was secured, I was confident enough to take the leap. So then I quit and I started preparing for UPSC finally. So that's how it has been.
You've taken this around 26, 27 years to reach the starting line of the race. Is that true?
So I would not say that because I have been interested. I was reading things up about UPSC and all sort of material. I was enhancing my knowledge. The optional that I picked, political science and international relations. So this was something I was interested long back during my childhood only. I used to read so many editorials in the newspapers, and I was also following books, etc. So I was doing my basic groundwork, but yes, I would say that it took me some 24 years of my life before I was confident enough that, okay, this is what now I need to focus full-fledged upon.
Okay. So that you've taken political science as your optional paper, and you just mentioned that you're coming from a conservative Muslim family. Now tell me, if you look at the political arena, where are Muslim women? They're missing almost entirely from the political. Landscape of the country, not just in terms of representation in the houses, but also in terms of many times even the issues and other political impact. So why Muslim women, despite having a huge population, are invisible?
Sir, I am totally in agreement with whatever you said. Also, I believe women at large are missing from political landscape, not only Muslim women. When we started after independence, we had quite a good representation of women in the Constituent Assembly, including Muslim women. One of them later on, she even went to chair Commission on the not only Muslim women. When we started after independence, we had quite a good representation of women in the Constituent Assembly, including Muslim women. One of them later on, she even went to chair Commission on the Status of Women, the UN body. So women were there, but with time it has not translated into women representation, increase in women representation in the politics. There are several reasons. Community is of course it has to be held responsible. Structural factors are there like patriarchy, caste system, gender. Women generally bear dual burden of gender and caste. Religion can also be added to the matrix sometimes. Then lastly, I believe all this translates into lack of skills. Their healthcare indicators are poor. Are not much aware, educated. Skills are not there. So they don't have any agency of their own, and it is visible to us in the form of lack of their political representation.
So, what is the way out? It cannot be left the way it is, right?
Totally, sir. Sir, this is a multi-dimensional problem. So there cannot be a single way out. We need to work upon several levels. Starting with the women themselves, we need to educate them, to impart skills, to make them financially included, digitally included also. At the level of community, leaders should come forward. Role models should be there. We should be propagating things like our past or even Constituent Assembly or the women leaders that did great work in India. And lastly, state should also step in. Capacity building is something that is in state's domain. So there have been programs like Nai, Udan, Roshni. Roshni is a leadership initiative for the Muslim women, not Muslim, minority women, I would say. So things are taking off from the ground, but it would take some time before they translated into some perceptible outcomes.
Okay, you mentioned that you like fiction.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, if you are into a bookshop, you're not allowed to touch a book, right? And you have to pick a book only on the basis of cover, right? You're not allowed to touch that, so you'll not be able to browse through. How will you choose a book? You can see the color, you can see the cover.
So cover has a lot of information to give away. First of all, there are books that are internationally acclaimed, like Booker Prize winners, these sort of books. Then authors, renowned authors are there. If I have to pick up something to be on the safer side, I would of course go with the renowned authors. But also the back side of the books, it has reviews, it has independent reviews, it has a backstory, a plot also. So I think it gives away a gist of the book. So this might help me pick up a book.
So when it comes to decision making, you rely solely on the served aspect if they are time constraint rather than going with the instinct.
Sir, knowing the author that I said is known author, so this is something that I have gained from my own experience. This is not served to me from the public or from the domain of experts. But yes, if I have to pick up a new book and this is something that out of my own expertise, then I would give a thought to what others have to say.
You were a banker and you understand why I'm asking this question. What is your risk appetite in general?
So I like exploring things. So
that's not what came out of you choosing books. So I'm really skeptical here.
I would say in terms of risk appetite, I would lie somewhere in the middle. I am not afraid to take risk, but I also prefer having a backup option, as my career trajectory so far might have indicated to you also, sir.
So you will take risk only when it is safe to take risk?
Only when.
Which is oxymoron.
I believe in optimizing my options, so yes, I would say so.
Fine, thank you. So,
thank you, sir.
Sadaf, you come from Amroha, and Amroha is receiving remittance income consistently. Can you explain us briefly what exactly is remittance income and what is the size of remittance income received by India in general and Amroha in particular?
So when the nationals, resident and nationals of a country, they go out and work in other countries, they send back a portion of their earnings back to home, to their family. So this largely includes remittance income. India has been the largest recipient of remittances worldwide. Size, I am not sure, but if I am allowed to take a guess, I would say it's somewhere around $1.7 billion. And Amroha, I am not sure of how much remittance Amroha is getting.
So which are the major destinations for Indian?
Sir, Gulf countries, first of all, especially UAE, Qatar, and then there is Northern American countries, America, Canada. So I think these are the two major destinations.
Okay, you want to be IFS officer, and political science is your optional also. Can you distinguish us between the office of ambassador and the office of consul or consul general? Functional difference.
So, Office of Ambassador is meant by the people from diplomatic corps of the country. The IFS officer, ambassador is the representative of India to other countries in order to foster a good relationship between two countries. Its ambit of responsibilities is far greater than that of consular general. Consul General is there mainly to provide assistance, to extend assistance to its own citizens of those countries for visa and for other requirements. So its ambit of functions is a bit smaller compared to Office of Ambassador. That is my understanding, sir.
So as IFS officer, you will prefer to work in a consul or in an embassy?
Sir, I'm not sure exactly the kind of function that would entail, but from my understanding, I would say the embassy.
With how many countries India is maintaining right now foreign relationships? And in how many countries we have our embassies?
I believe India has foreign relations with almost every country. There is no country that is on our radar that we don't, all the UN recognized countries, I would say. And there are also several independent states like Palestine, Taiwan, etc., where India has diplomatic relations, but embassies, as far as they are concerned, they are lesser in number. For example, in Latin America, there are so many countries, but we are not maintaining much embassies there, many embassies there, like 2 or 3 embassies might have been there. So we often tend to club our embassies, countries in terms of our embassy. So I'm not sure of the exact number, but they are lesser than the number of countries that we maintain contact with.
When did we establish a diplomatic relation with Israel?
Sir, I am not sure for the exact year, but if I am recalling it correctly, it was somewhere in year 2005 that the Israeli president made a visit to India. I guess there was Oslo Accord of 1994 also, when Israel was recognized by a large number of countries. So, but I'm not sure of the exact year.
Do we
Sorry,
have diplomatic relations with North Korea?
Diplomatic relations, yes, sir. But our embassy there is not fully functioning. It was earlier, but after this US-North Korea tensions and that nuclear threat, we downgraded our relation. It is there for only humanitarian and medical aid.
A great artist comes from Amroha, who was called Kamal Amrohi.
Yes, sir.
Tell us something about him.
Kamal Amrohi was a famous filmmaker. He came from Amroha, yes, but he established his base out of Mumbai. He made a lot of great movies, including Razia Sultana. Pakiza was one of his famous movies, one of the highest grossing movies. He was married to Meena Kumari. I think this is all I know about him.
Why do you think Razia Sultan was a great ruler? What are her characteristics?
Razia Sultana rose in the line of Delhi Sultanate rulers. She was a great ruler. There are several reasons that can be pointed out. First of all, she broke the monopoly of Chehelgani, the 40 Turkish rulers. I would not say rulers, chiefs. So she broke their monopoly and she assumed title. She used to rule herself. She used to pay visits to her subjects in order to understand better about the functioning of her administration. And also she fought very bravely until very last, her last, when she was deposed off and when she was raided across the forest and died fighting. So a brave hero, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Sadaf.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sadaf,
Yes, sir.
why there is huge NPA mounting in public sector bank?
So there are several reasons for this. First of all, lack of due diligence. Earlier, we did not have so many prudential norms in place in order to extend the loan. For example, large exposure framework. These loans were recently revised by RBI after 2015 NPA crisis. Secondly, autonomy of the PSB boards. So they are generally government appointees and they are collusion between corporate, etc. Also, Bank Boards Bureau was there in order to make autonomous appointment, but it has failed to take off to a large extent. Also, regulatory forbearance. When global financial crisis erupted, in order to revive the economy, RBI had certainly regulatory forbearance, which ultimately leads into an NPA crisis because it was not rolled back in time.
Okay, Sadaf, is privatization of public sector bank better than the merger of bank?
So I would say they both go hand in hand together. For example, merging bank would provide you economy of scale and giving the public sector bank the asset that they have and also their mandate of serving the rural population.
At present situation, government is focusing more on the privatization of public sector bank rather than merging. So what's your call?
So in my opinion, government is taking a two-pronged strategy. It is merging regional rural banks, several small banks also together in order to make them banks of economies of scale. But once it happens, if the bank's performance is not good, privatization of that bank is a further step in this process. In my assessment, I think government is following on the recommendation of Narsimhan Committee. It has recommended that India should have a few big banks and then several small banks, differentiated banks, small finance banks, regional rural banks, local area banks. So RBI is doing all these things.
Government is proclaiming that government has no business to be in business. So is it the reason to privatize the bank?
So this is a maxim, I agree, yes, it is a good maxim. But then government, India is a welfare state. Government has several mandates to serve people. Financial inclusion is one of them because you can't take the economy out of crisis when a large portion remains out of banking business. So yes, government should be in banking business. Presence of government is bad. So that might be the reason.
Can you think or can you justify that privatization of bank will solve the problem of NPA in public sector bank?
No, sir. So NPA is something which is very regulation-based thing. If public sector banks implement RBI regulations in a prudent way, in a proactive manner, NPA would not emerge in public sector banks also. And as far as private sector banks are concerned, their NPA is less, that is a fact. But it is not that they don't have NPA at all, or if their board is more autonomous, they don't have frauds also. So this is mostly about the regulation, not about the public sector or private sector when NPA is
So
concerned.
India signed the FTA with so many countries. Free trade agreement
Yes,
with
sir.
so many
Yes, sir.
countries. Have these FTA benefited India or the other trading partners as per your stand?
So this has been a long contending issue. Economic survey said that India was gaining out of it, but then there was another report which said that India is losing out of it, which became the reason of India pulling out of RCEP also. But in my limited understanding, I
In
feel
the context of ASEAN countries, India is gaining or India is in losing position?
Sir, I think India is gaining ground in terms of ASEAN countries. India's foreign exports most of the exports are to least developed countries or the neighboring
But as
countries.
per Niti Aayog report, it is the other trading partner which is gaining, not India.
Yes, sir.
So now,
So, sir, Niti Aayog report, I believe, is based upon the large trading partners, for example, China. So, if I'll just keep China on one side and other partners on the other side, India is losing out to China, of course, cumulatively. But in terms of Indonesia, Malaysia, we had trade FTAs with them, and for oil seed, oil is something that we import in large quantities. It helped India to maintain our inflation because oil was being imported at a cheaper rates. So I believe India benefited out of
my last question is with you. Do you have any knowledge about currency swap agreement? What is currency swap agreement?
So when
You have the option of PSI, na? So tell me, what is currency swap agreement?
when two countries decide to swap their currencies, it's like a long-term loan without any interest. You extend a line of credit, let's say US dollar 2 billion. So if Japan and India, they recently had this swap agreement. Japan extended a line of credit to India. If India takes out of that line of credit, it has to pay a mutually determined interest rate. And then after India would pay back to Japan at the same rates. And same India extend line of credit to Japan also, and the same rate, same tenure. So it is a safe way to hedge currency risk as well as interest rate risk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Ma'am,
you, sir.
please.
Sadaf, I see you are an engineer.
Yes, ma'am.
We already have very less women engineers in the country, good women engineers. And you want to contribute to the country by being a civil servant. Why not as an engineer?
You are absolutely right about having less number of women engineers in the country. But my choice to pursue civil services, it was just a personal decision. I would have loved to serve my country in the capacity of chemical engineer also. But during the course of my graduation, I realized that I love chemistry. That's why I opted for chemical engineering. But I decided that I was not cut out of it. So I believed I would have served country better in civil services.
Okay, Sadaf, you are from UP.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me, how is it different for a girl to be in UP and to be in Delhi? You have to tell me two differences.
Ma'am, first of all, security reasons. Delhi, I believe, I have been to both the states. So Delhi, I believe, was more secure in terms of logistics because there are cabs available, metros are there. You can venture out late at night. In UP, I can't even think of this. I don't think the situation is so bad, but the far-flung areas that I come from, their situation is dire. Secondly, I believe the Human Development Index, I would say, consisting of their life, quality of life, their economic potential. Delhi is able to exploit its Human Development Index in terms of female very well, but UP is still lagging behind in terms of developing its female resources.
Exploit or tap?
Sorry, ma'am, tap is the right word.
Okay. Sadaf, what is women empowerment to you?
I believe women empowerment is transferring the agency that women ought to have over their own lives to them from the clutch of patriarchal society or any other social disability that might be ailing.
What happens in the country that would make you say that now women are empowered?
I believe it would be multidimensional. Political representation, as sir just said, it should be there because women-centric policies, when women are in the power, the policies tend to favor women also. Then economic empowerment, we have very low female labor force participation rate, which has to be increased if India as a country also has to progress.
Do you think Western women are empowered?
No, ma'am. I would also say they're not empowered also, but they are not as empowered as they seem to us or as we think to ourselves, because economic empowerment is there, but they are still having dual burden of work. Violence against women is also prevalent in those countries. So empowerment is across all the walks of life.
Okay, I see you're a budget traveler.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you make your travel choices?
Depending upon how many days I have, then distance, logistics available to me.
How do you decide the destination?
Majorly, I feel, first of all, I try to search the internet for, there are several travel bloggers who document their journeys, so it gets very easy to follow what are the better alternatives. So I decide based upon the location, it is appealing to me or not, then how am I to make arrangement to move.
Give me an example when last time internet misled you into wrong or distasteful traveling.
It has happened quite a time actually. Not the destination have mostly turned out to be good, but in terms of journey, it has led to like Google Maps or...
Okay, if I ask you, that would be my last question to you, that let's say I am planning to travel with you. What should I be prepared for? What would be the worst thing about Sadaf to travel with her, and what would be the good thing about Sadaf to travel with her?
Good thing, I would say I like exploring new things, so especially food. So if you are traveling with me, you'll get to eat a lot of different type of foods. This is the first priority when I go to any place. Bad thing, I would say, I'm back to the hotel or where I'm staying. I feel like withdrawing into myself. I don't socialize much once I'm in my own comfort zone. I just feel that I should take rest, recuperate, because I have to travel next day also. So that might get boring to some people also. So
do you like solo traveling or traveling with people?
Mostly solo traveling.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sadaf, so you want to be an IFS officer,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Which country will be preferred by you if given option?
China,
Why?
I would say. Because currently China is India's biggest challenge. I would not say only challenge, China is our competitor, our collaborator also in some areas. So it is the relationship that has to be managed at several levels. So China would be my preferred choice. Also, China is a country that has been present in almost all the domains, be it economic diplomacy, strategic diplomacy, para-diplomacy, everything. So I would get a lot of avenues to work.
So what can India learn from China? Give any 4 or 5 points.
China's big pocket, the BRI diplomacy is something that the China has utilized.
Just give the points.
Okay. Utilizing its economic potential in terms of diplomacy, leveraging on its soft power, opening up embassies across most of the nations, very strategically planning its moves on the international arena in terms of Union Security Council or WTO. So that's all coming to mind right now.
Recently, Thailand has banned the use of sunscreen for the tourists going around the beaches. for the protection of coral reefs. Have you heard this?
Yes, sir. As a lot of other countries have also banned, like Palau and Tuvalu, also Pacific nations.
Maybe you come from the background of chemical engineering as well.
Yes, sir.
So why sunscreen is harmful for the coral reefs?
I'm not sure of this, sir. If I am allowed to take a guess, I think they have microplastic beads in them and also several carcinogenic chemicals that might lead to bleaching of coral reefs.
Why sunscreen is used by anyone?
Sir, I think then it has to got to do with the fact that it blocks UV rays of the sun and coral reefs are not able to manufacture their food because photosynthesis etc. might not happen.
Okay, what are UV rays?
Light that we receive from sun can be scattered, split into several a spectrum of different wavelengths. So UV rays are one of the component of sun rays, and their frequency is more than the light that reach our eyes, the visible range.
Are you confirm about whatever you are saying? What is spectrum of light?
Sir, when the light is passed through a prism,
It get divided into seven
different
colors.
spectrums. Yeah, yes, sir, bands.
So are ultraviolet rays a part of that spectrum or that seven color?
So they are a part
Are you
of that.
sure about this?
Sir, no, sir. I'm really sorry. No, it gets scattered into seven lights that are visible to our eyes, the visual
Then
spectrum.
what is ultraviolet rays?
They are more in frequency than the light that is visible to us.
Okay.
So I think they are higher frequency, but then I'll have to go back and look up.
Okay, ultraviolet rays get absorbed by ozone layer.
Yes, sir.
That in that sense, ozone is good for us. Ozone is lifesaver for the earth.
Yes, sir.
But there are some ground level kind of ozone which is dangerous for the environment as well. Right?
Yes, sir.
What exactly is ground layer ozone? Ground level ozone.
So the ozone that is good for us is stratospheric ozone, which blocks UV light. Ground level ozone is tropospheric ozone. It usually forms out of vehicular emissions, and it gets stuck in the troposphere, often leads to inhalation by the people, and it's carcinogenic.
Okay, my last question will be to you. Give three chemicals that is dangerous for the environment and three chemicals that is good for the environment.
Dangerous carbons are CFCs, and there have several categories like HCFCs.
Okay.
Then halogens are also dangerous for the environment.
Is CFC part of halogens?
No, sir, they are not a part of
Okay.
halogens. And CFCs, halogens, and then greenhouse gases, they are also
They are chemicals?
gases are chemicals technically, but
Okay.
if you are asking me, nerve gases are there which are harmful for the people, for the environment also.
What three chemicals are good for the
Good.
health of environment?
So there is nothing coming to my mind right now.
There is
really
no good
sorry.
chemical.
No, sir, they must have good chemical, a lot of things.
Good chemical for your health?
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
So, okay, Sadaf. Sadaf, you studied from this B.R. Ambedkar NIT, also a political science student. Tell me, had this constitutional draft committee, we all understand that B.R. Ambedkar was head of the draft committee, and that's why we have a constitution which is very inclusive when it comes to caste and other marginalized sections. But there was no women in the draft committee. Just imagine that if the draft committee was headed and was adequately represented by women, what would have been the shape of our Indian constitution? What differences do you foresee would have been there?
So our sense and sensibilities are defined by the times that we live in. When Dr. Ambedkar was heading the drafting committee, the notion of feminism was patriarchal, like led by the men. Women were the sidelines. So back then I believe women were also an ally in this sort of transformation. They were like, if men would do it, and then they are also an ally, so it is fine. But if I see constitution being drafted at this point of time, there might be several other things. There might have been reservation for the women. There might have been some sort of directive principles that entails welfare of women and child. So they might have been made a part of more enforceable part of the constitution. So I believe a lot of laws, domestic violence, sexual harassment violence, these laws, they came into existence a lot later. So they might have also been in some sort included in the constitution itself.
So if you've mentioned that you like traveling, you in fact mentioned solo traveling, and also that you like to try different kind of food. Consider a situation that you are traveling for a nation, right? not necessarily in official capacity, but you are a sitting officer, and you are in the company of maybe some diaspora there and all, and you are served with a food which is legally allowed to be eaten, but hurts the cultural sentiments of this nation, of the people here. You are on a private visit, but you are in the eye of the public. What would you do? You want to try it, but would you try that, or you'll just leave that? It is legal to eat.
Yes, sir. Sir, if I am in some other country, I might be traveling in a private capacity, but if I know that I have been consciously watched for, so I believe personally I would refrain from consuming that food. If I like it, I might have it later. But I think at that point of time I would not consume food.
So that restraint part which you were saying will apply to you despite, you'll be giving up your agency, your choices.
So in the greater good of the country, I think I would be.
What greater good will be served by not eating a particular food?
Because diaspora is something that has a feeling of community among themselves. I am one of them. If they feel hurt by me, the only person eating that food, or even the people back home, then I think just giving up on a food at one particular instance would not matter so much to me.
Don't you believe that women have been giving up these small things collectively a lot? And cumulatively it is resulting in greater clutches of patriarchy?
Yes, sir. This food instance is just one off, so it might have been glossed over. But if we feel like making repetitive small compromises, then this might translate into something very big. So this is of course wrong, and I agree that it has been happening over centuries with the women. So small steps are needed. But I feel these are not binary situations. It's fighting for your rights and just giving up your willingly your interest over food or something. So I don't feel they are comparable.
Fine, Sadaf. It was nice talking to you.
Thank
your
you.
interview is over. You can go now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Take a seat, Sadaf.
Thank you, sir.
So, Sadaf, it's going to be your first interview?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me, you're happy with your performance, or there are areas you believe that you need to improve?
So chemical engineering is something that I feel I was preparing for oil, chemical, fertilizers, but basic questions I just missed out upon. But now I know that I have to prepare.
Right.
And sir, and at last I missed the salutation part. I should have thanked ma'am. Then both I feel.
How with the communication thing, you believe that you were good, or you believe that there are places where you can improve and you can better?
I believe I speak too fast sometimes, so that is something I need to work upon. Neck movements might be of some sort of bother might.
Right. So, Sadaf, see, you are going to be interesting candidate for a variety of reasons. You already know it. I've been trolled for saying it, but coming from the minority community will make you a candidate for which people gonna be interested. The board member will be interested, and since you mentioned it in the beginning itself, coming from conservative Muslim
So that was the exact
community.
reason that I took up engineering.
So the idea is that the board members will have a reason to pick that line and move ahead. On those fronts, one of your going to be interesting candidate board members will be interested in you because of that reason, and second is that you are prepared for that is visible, so that is also good. So overall it's going to be interesting board to face to begin with, but then thereafter it is, see, getting the attention of the board is actually a problem for many candidates. You are being served with this attention to begin with, so you need to capitalize on this attention you'll enjoy, right? You're able to do it on most occasions, but there are a few areas where you can work. Coming to technical things, your entry is good, sitting posture is good, voice level is good. You rightly said that at a few places the speed is a little higher, and the neck movement is definitely an area of concern, which we specifically mentioned here. So you can work on that. See, it's not about just the movement of neck. It is actually when there should be a balance between the verbal and non-verbal communication, right? A good harmony of verbal and non-verbal communication. If your non-verbal communication try to override the verbal communication, it effectively means two things. One, you're not confident about your verbal communication itself, and second, this balance, delicate balance is sometime got interrupted. Right, so it is therefore important that more non-verbal communication means more informal, right?
sir.
So that is one thing you can work on, but it should not be stiff neck, right? ऐसा नहीं है कि उसको ठीक करने के चक्कर में आप unnecessarily stiff neck हो जाए. You have to be natural, but if you can curb this neck movement a bit, it will be good, right? Then your eye contact, I'll be coming to eye contact a little later, but flow is good, your vocabulary is good, our choice of words is generally very good. About the eye contact thing, it's good by and large, but in the thinking postures, you can probably improve it.
Yes.
See, the best advice is look at the person you're talking to, and if you need to break that eye contact for thinking, look downward rather than looking upward.
Yes, sir.
Right? That will be better. I know these are too many recipes, people will tend to forget a few, doesn't matter, but since it is my duty to point out that.
No, sir, thank you.
Right? Coming to the other things, you have this hand clasping thing, which is not necessarily a bad idea, but placing it like this will be a little better.
Okay.
Other things, mostly your communication was very good. Board members were very happy. You also had a good knack for understanding the real intention of the board member. Your listening is one of the best. You are able to grasp what actually board member is intended, and you are able to hit it in the first or the second sentence, which is good. Except when you were discussing this chemical thing. There you must have realized that your whole communication was not in sync with the rest of your communication. For example, a very simple thing of saying, sorry,
Yes,
I want to
I-
skip that. You took too long in saying so, right? In fact, you should have uttered it in the first place itself, because that was not your comfort area. And you knew, this is one thing which a smart candidate understands. If you are a good candidate, you realize how your interview is going.
Yes.
Right? And if it is going very good so far, there is no point letting it being disturbed at least towards the end of the interview.
Yes,
right?
sir.
It's better to say a couple of sorries and this impression that, okay, this candidate might not remember, is not able to recall what she studied in NIT. That's fine. It's okay. These are only cognitive aspects.
I should have said sorry, yes,
So
sir.
that you can probably handle it a bit better. Why? Because you were doing, otherwise you were doing so well. And the last, if you're doing so in the later part of your interview, memory will be fresher,
Yes,
right?
sir.
When the evaluation.
Yes,
takes place.
sir.
Other things, really good. You handled the situation very good. I like that because that was a conflict situation. You were able to handle it. In general, your sensitivity part is very good. You know where you stand, and you are consistent in your stand, which is also good. Balance of judgment is also there. So in general, otherwise you're doing very, very good. When you were discussing this privatization bank thing,
Sir.
make sure that you're taking your time before you're putting forward any opinion. It should not be from the word go. I mean, you can have the same opinion. In fact, you should have the same opinion, but maybe take a little while.
Yes, sir.
Other things, very, very good. I'm counting on you. You'll be doing very, very good in the interview, right? All the best.
Thank you so much, sir.
May I come in, sir?
Yes, please.
Good morning, sir.
Good afternoon. Please take a
afternoon.
seat.
Thank you, sir.
You're Mr. Prashant Kiran.
Yes, sir.
Prashant, I hope you can notice that you are sitting at around 12 feet from anybody in this room.
Yes, sir.
Idea is that you should feel safe and comfortable with regard to COVID. And another advantage of this arrangement is that you can safely remove your mask, considering that you are at a safe distance, right? Please.
Thank you, sir.
Comfortable?
Yes, sir.
So can we start?
Yes, sir.
So Prashant, introduce yourself to board members.
Sirs, and ma'am, my name is Prashant. I belong to Samastipur in Bihar. I did my graduation in BE Civil Engineering with MSc in Economics from BITS Pilani. And after that, I was working with Flipkart as a product manager. And since last 2 years, I've been preparing for the exam.
Okay. So you did your graduation in which year?
Sir, 2016, I graduated.
Okay. There is also, you mentioned that you have done also the post-graduation degree.
So it was a dual degree program.
It was a dual degree program. So your graduation was in civil engineering and the post-graduation was in economics.
Yes, sir.
Okay, obviously my colleagues will be very happy to interact you with about economics and all, but tell me, you were working with Flipkart, you were trained to become a technocrat. So why are you even considering to become a civil servant?
Sir, primarily there are three reasons. One is that while working with Flipkart, I realized that I will always be working with the problems of the first 100 million or 200 million of the population from the top. And I wanted to work on a broad set of problems which civil services will allow me to work upon. The second reason is the unique nature of the job, because it allows us to discharge sovereign functions which no other private job will allow me. So that is another reason. And third is personal growth and satisfaction which I will receive after serving the public. Sir.
Then these are such a simple things to count. Why couldn't you see it before you got into engineering thing?
Sir,
Or for that matter, got into Flipkart thing?
Sir, at that point of time, I was more interested in solving problems with technology. But when I started solving problems with technology, I came across much larger set of problems. Maybe at that point of time, my worldview was a bit narrow, so to say. So, but after working with Flipkart and doing some user research while working with Flipkart, I realized that there are a lot of problems which are not being catered by the Flipkarts of the country. So that way, sir, I decided that I should maybe work towards that.
Also, another thing which is not very, which kind of make me believe that you still have some confusion in your mind is that both civil engineering, which is your graduation subject, and economics, which is your post-graduation subject, are available as optional papers.
Yes.
We end up taking anthropology. Our understanding of anthropology takers is that they are the people who want to study the least. Why you took anthropology and not economics and social civil engineering?
Sir, there are two reasons for that.
One is that you wanted to study the least. What else?
Yes, so that is one reason, and the other part of that is that there are sources available for it, which I found that okay. And the second was that, sir, I was actually interested in anthropology. I read a few books, and while I was deciding an option, economics was certainly on my mind. But I decided why not learn something new when I'm going through the process, and I had interest, so that's why I chose anthropology as an option.
Since you studied anthropology, your name is Prashant Kiran, which I understand is you have suffixed your mother's name with your name. Considering that you have studied anthropology, tell me, what is patrilineage, and do you believe that these gestures like yours dent the patrilineage at all, or these are only cosmetic things?
Sir, patrilineage is how the descent is decided in any society. So in patrilineal societies, the descent is traced along the father's line. While this decision of naming, taking the name of my mother was a decision taken by my parents, wherein they decided that my brother is going to take the name of the father and I'm going to take the name of my mother. It was more on the decision of equality, sir, and I'm sure that over the period of, if we continue such trends, it is going to have a effect, but not very much. This cannot be the only option. We have to take other steps also, sir.
Fine, thank you. So, Prashant, you have worked in Flipkart for 3 years.
Yes, sir.
And so you could have just noticed that these e-commerce companies are emerging fast.
Yes, sir.
How they are affecting the trade behavior and trade potential of the traditional small street side traders?
Sir, from what I have observed while working with Flipkart and even afterwards, sir, it is affecting both positively and negatively. Mostly till now it has been a negative impact on them, because due to deep discounting and predatory pricing, they have been able to capture a lot of market, and the margins are getting smaller for the mom and pop stores or the kirana stores, which we say. But there have been some positive outcomes also, because the e-commerce has also brought in the wholesale e-commerce market, which, for example, Flipkart has Flipkart wholesale. Udaan is another e-commerce which works in that direction. So that is also helping them in a way procure their supplies at in a much more efficient manner. And there have been other initiatives which have been taken by companies which are helping in terms of generating more income. For example, Flipkart has Flipkart Kirana, which allows them to work as delivery agents. So, sir, it has been a both positive and negative influence, but right now I would say, sir, it is mostly bordering on the negative side.
These companies were well prepared, and other companies in organized sector were also well prepared for GST kind of modern accounting based taxation.
Yes.
While our traditional traders and small manufacturers are not prepared, do you think it is unjust on the part of the government to introduce GST in a surprising way without letting the small businessmen prepare themselves?
Sir, I would say to some extent it hurt them because of the compliances which are required for the GST. But some steps were also taken by the government and also by the private sector, which were directed towards helping them reach these compliances, because we see a lot of companies have come up who have started offering one-stop solutions for GST. So, sir, I think these are teething problems, as you rightly pointed out. And eventually, but we had to get to some stage where we wanted to, because GST on a whole will benefit the country, sir, and even the small shopkeepers. So, in a way, sir, it is going to be beneficial.
What are the potential threats of brownfield FDI liberalization in India?
So, brownfield FDI liberalization it will lead to ownership, the profit which is coming from the current well-established companies like BPCL and others will go to foreign companies who might not invest them back in the country. So investment will get affected. So that is one thing.
Will it lead to some neo-colonial losses to the nation?
Sir, with proper regulation, it should not. But if we are not able to properly regulate, and if we do not see how the ownership is maintained in the new structure, then maybe yes, sir.
Okay, Prashant, thank you.
Hello, Prashant. So, Prashant, you have done the post graduation in economics, and you took the anthropology as your optional.
Yes, sir.
What is economic anthropology?
Sir, economic anthropology is a subfield of anthropology which deals with the study of means of production, distribution, and consumption in both primitive and the modern economy. To add to that, sir, I would say the focus is more on the behavior side of things. How economy is not more about profit maximization, rather it is more about building social relationships through the transactions.
Okay, as you discussed with our panel member about the Flipkart flash sales.
Yes, sir.
So, what are the reasons behind the Flipkart flash sales?
Sir, one of the main reasons is that in India, the e-commerce companies have been following the loss leader pricing strategy, wherein the strategy is to entice the user with a very deep discount, and once they get to that website, then this habit is created, and then they start becoming a regular customer.
Prashant, are they really selling a huge number of mobile in 2 or 3 seconds, or it's just a trick?
Sir, it also creates a hype that this particular phone is getting launched, and you have to come at 12 o'clock. Once you arrive there, you might not be able to buy that phone, but you see other offers which are there, and then you engage with these.
So it's not a real sale.
It is a real sale, sir. It is a real sale. We have sold.
Then why the government wants to put an end to flash sales?
Sir, mostly because in these scenarios, what happened that there are sellers on Flipkart or Amazon or other e-commerce for that matter, who are called alpha sellers, and their products are being placed above the normal marketplace sellers. So it is putting them in a disadvantaged position. That is why the government wants to put a check.
Okay, Prashant, last 6 months, RBI is purchasing so much government securities from the market through GSAP.
Yes, sir.
How this GSAP will reduce the fiscal deficit of the government?
So from what
Are you getting me now?
I would like to take a moment to think about this. Sir, from what I can think right now, GSAP allows for for reducing the yield in the market. So if the RBI is buying the securities,
How will the yield will be reduced through GSEC?
so if the RBI is buying the securities, then it
Yes.
is going to increase the demand for the bond for the G6, and
Right.
that is going to increase the price in the market, and that is going to reduce the yield because the price and the yield are inversely proportional. If the yield is reduced, then the government can launch new G6 for the long term, which
Very
are
good.
going to be competitive at a lower rate of interest, and that
Look,
is
Prashant, RBI has the repo rate. They can also reduce the repo rate to infuse the liquidity in the market.
yes, sir.
Since RBI is purchasing government securities to infuse the liquidity in the market also.
Yes, sir.
So why RBI doesn't take the stance in repo rate to reduce it rather than doing so much circus?
Sir, I think repo rate reduction will lead to much larger infusion of money, because it will also affect the overall money supply through monetary policy
Prashant,
transmission.
my last question is with you. Now we have a huge forex.
Yes, sir.
We are attracting a huge FDI.
Yes, sir.
The stock market is booming now. So is it the right time to do the full capital account convertibility?
Sir, not right now. Because,
Why?
sir, if I remember correctly, there was a Tarapur committee which had recommended that there should be certain conditions which must be met for full account capital account.
Conditions are
Yes, sir. Those were around NPA, that for a long period of time the NPA should be under control. But since the COVID pandemic, the NPA situation has been worsening slightly, but surely it has been worsening. So that is going to affect our economic health in that regard. And sir, even the FDI which has been coming, it is mostly coming in form of FII. And in the stock
FDI is coming
in form of equity in stock market. So as if I may be wrong, but
So as per Arvind Mayaram, if we have 10% more of any company equity, it is called FDI.
yes, sir, yes.
So
But sir, as I read in an article that the money which is coming in, if we look at the breakup, it is more going into the speculation of stock market rather than actual investment in the actual sense of.
very good, Prashant. Sir, please.
Prashant, your name means the largest ocean in Hindi, right? How many oceans are there currently?
So there is Pacific Ocean, then there is Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, and Southern Ocean is there, the Antarctic one, and Arctic
Ocean. Five oceans are there, right? Recently, the fifth ocean, that is Southern Ocean, has been recognized internationally.
Yes, sir.
Which body is responsible for recognizing the ocean?
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not aware.
Okay, suppose since it has been declared the fifth ocean and it has been bounded by the 60 degrees southern latitude, right? What would be the impact of declaring that part as fifth ocean for the world?
Sir, it will act as a global common, so maybe that is one of the implications which can come out of it.
What was the need of declaring the fifth ocean?
I'm not aware, sir.
You are not aware of that. Okay, what is the role of civil engineering, since you have done graduation in civil engineering, I think, in administration?
Sir, right away, I'm not sure what the role is, but anyone who has studied engineering develops certain analytical abilities by understanding the cause and effect model, and particularly civil engineering teaches us economy, that how to be very economical in whatever you are doing. So those things are maybe which we can apply in
Cause and effect and analytical ability of engineers.
Yes, sir.
So, what is the cause and effect of coming engineers in such a huge amount towards the civil services, leaving their core field?
There are 2-3 reasons which I can think right now. One is that most of the engineers in India, they are once they are studying for these entrance exams, they get better at it. So that reflects in other competitive exams also. The other reason is that it allows for while it is a specialization which is there, but it allows them to maybe do better in these exams because
Why they are leaving their core field?
So mostly because their aspirations of whatever they want to achieve from that job is not getting.
Why they are going for engineering?
Sir, that is a social problem, I think, in India because
Social problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, Prashant. Are you aware of maritime security?
yes, sir.
What it is and why it has been in news recently?
So maritime security means securing the international waters in a sense that it is used for it. It can be used for trade and other productive purposes. It has been used recently because one of the agendas of our UNSC presidentship has been maritime security, and even our Prime Minister talked about some 5 principles for maritime security in the region, and it certainly, because of the rising trade, global trade, it also has taken up a huge position in geopolitics.
Mr. Prime Minister also mentioned about Deep Ocean Mission.
Yes, sir.
What it is?
So Deep Ocean Mission is a mission of Indian government which aims at harnessing the minerals and the rare earth metals found on the ocean floor, and also on protecting the biodiversity in the deep ocean.
So Indian government can go and explore the ocean by itself, or does it need to get permission from UN for doing so?
So there is International Seabed Authority which I think provides approval for these matters.
And what are the different zones as far as the maritime water is concerned?
So there is territorial waters which extends up to 12 nautical miles. Then there is contiguous zone which extends up to 24 nautical miles. And then there is EEZ which extends up to 200 nautical miles.
Right. What is the difference between the rights of the concerned country in the contiguous zone and territorial water?
Sir, I'm not aware of the exact differences between these two.
What are the exclusive rights in contiguous zone for the country?
Sir, again, I'm not aware of the exact rights.
Okay, can you name the 5 highest peaks of Himalayas of India?
Of India. So there is Mount Kanchenjunga in Sikkim.
Is the highest?
India, I'm talking about India. Sir.
Is the highest in India?
So as far as I...
Okay, second?
So there is Nanga Parbat in Kashmir region, and there is Mount Ketu. So these are 3 which I can remember.
Just 3. Okay, Prashant, thank you.
Prashant,
Yes, ma'am.
let's begin, since you've been a student of economics, let's begin by naming a few women economists. Can you do that for me?
The first name which comes to my mind is Mrs. Geeta Gopinath.
Okay.
Then Esther Duflo is there.
Okay.
Then, I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm only able to recall.
It's
right.
okay. I see that your father works in a TB hospital.
Yes.
Prashant, why do you think India has not been able to eliminate tuberculosis?
Madam, I can think about 4 or 5 different reasons which are responsible for it. One is on the social level, that is where it starts from, that TB has a social stigma associated with it, and people do not want to report it because they fear that this might bring some bad name to the family, and that's why the reporting is poor. The second reason is the infrastructure, because in the rural areas, the reporting also gets a lot of cases do not get reported because of lack of facilities which are there. Then the lifestyle which we Indians have, we live in very crowded spaces. So in that sense also it leads to further, since it's a communicable disease, so the spread of disease also keeps on going. Coming to the medical side of things or the healthcare side of things, there we see that a lot of cases are lost to follow-up. That is where they start the treatment, but their treatment does not get completed. Especially in the private sector, because we see that...
Private sector or public sector?
From
Follow-ups are an issue in private sector?
what I have learned from my father and the TB reports, it's mostly in the private sector that a lot of patients are left. Because in the public sector, we have done really good in terms of dots and other strategies. So that is another factor which I can think about.
All right, Prashant. Prashant, if I ask you how patriarchal are you, what would you answer to this question? Be honest.
Ma'am, I don't know how to grade how patriarchal I am, but I stand for equality in all fields of life.
Okay, since you stand for equality, I see that in your hobbies you've written cooking as your hobby. Don't you think, Prashant, for you cooking is a hobby, but for most of the women in our country, cooking is a responsibility.
I truly agree, ma'am, and that is the unfortunate case.
So, don't you think that women in our country don't have this luxury to make cooking their hobby?
I think it is one of the unfortunate results of patriarchy.
What would you do as an individual to change this scenario?
I would start with my home because, and that is what I have learned while growing up, that no responsibility in the family should be just be associated with certain member of the family. And while I'll try to change and reform my friends and family by telling them how it is, it shouldn't be seen that cooking is something which is feminine or something like that, or a responsibility of the women of the family. So that is something which I'll start from the family. Then, depending upon what kind of resources I have, I will take steps for breaking this image of cooking associated with.
Prashant, let me put you in a situation where you are selected and you have a batchmate who is a female. She walks up to you and she tells you that the boss looks at her very uncomfortably. It makes her uncomfortable the way your male boss looks at her. How will you handle the situation? What would be your immediate steps? What would be your steps later?
Ma'am, in this situation, first I would talk to the girl because she would be in a very uncomfortable situation considering all of this has been directed to her. And the next steps would be towards we already have a lot of structures in official workplaces around women's safety. So I will go with her and I will help her in getting to those places. If she is uncomfortable, maybe I will try to convince her that okay, you need not worry, it's not your fault, it's the fault of someone else who is directing it at you. And go through that process. I would support her in that process.
Prashant, my last question to you would be, if you were given a superpower, which one would that be and what would you do with it?
Something which I can think about right now would be teleportation. Maybe that will come in really handy.
And what would you do with it?
It will allow me to maybe it will just help me be at places fast so that I can increase my productivity or something like
Thank you, Prashant.
Okay, Prashant. Prashant, another hobby of yours, which is very gendered otherwise, is street photography. Name a few women street photographers of our country.
So I'm not able to recall someone from the country, but outside we have a lot of street photographers like Dina Alfasi is there, and so yes, sir, I'm not able to recall.
If you look at the street photography, the recent changes after the advent of digital photography, especially the mobiles, is that the street photography has become quite a popular thing, considering that it is now accessible. Anybody and everybody can do it. Do you believe that it has potential to actually kill the art of street photography? Because since everybody is doing it, effectively nobody is actually doing it.
Sir, to some extent, I feel that way because not just street photography, sir, because the camera has become so ubiquitous that while the photos clicked are nice, there's so much of adding of filters and everything that it is just making you realize that you are not able to capture anything. You are trying to portray whatever is there in your mind through the filter. So that way, so photography is getting affected. But the democratization of photography by giving people camera has opened up a lot of new perspectives, sir. So it has benefited from that perspective. So I would say, sir,
Recently, it was in Norway where it was declared that using filters without giving information that these are filtered is illegal. So if you're using a filter, you'll have to declare that it's a filtered piece. Do you believe that we too should consider that? It is a law there for influencers right now, not for everybody. But do you believe that sooner than later we should also think about it?
Sir, I wouldn't support legal clauses like that because it will put put a limit on the freedom of expression to some extent. Rather, we should be, we can create a campaign that, okay, no filter or something like that, or you should announce that you are using. There can be misrepresentation due to filters, but I wouldn't support something like that.
Well, if you are on a road and there's a fast moving object you want to capture, tell me what will be the camera technicals for that.
Sir, it's daylight.
It's daylight.
So the first thing which I will change is the shutter speed. I will take it down to 1/200 or 1/400 depending upon the speed at which the object is moving. And the second would be, sir, I would try to capture it at a lower f-stop. That is, so that the depth of field does not gets affected because it's a moving object. So, sir, these two things are the primary changes which I will bring.
And what are the likely outputs with this? If it is, will it be a stationary shot, or you'll be actually be moving your camera as well?
So, if it's a daylight, sir, I don't think we need to move the camera. 1/200 or something around that should be able to capture it fairly still.
And it is a fast moving thing?
So, if it's a very fast moving thing, we'll have to maybe move the camera along with it, but that will move the rest of the subjects in the picture a lot. So,
Right. Fine, Prashant, it was nice talking to you. Your interview is over, you can go now.
thank you, sir. Thank you, madam. Thank you, sir.
Take a seat, Prashant.
Thank you, sir.
Right, Prashant. Prashant, it is your first attempt, I can see.
Yes, sir.
Right. So, tell me, you're happy with your performance, or you believe that there are areas you need to work better?
Sir, I think some of the questions like female photographers and female economists, I think I need to prepare those things because it really doesn't look well. Although I may be able to recall if I think hard enough, but in interview scenario that may work against me. The second thing, sir, I think I need to prepare a little bit more on maritime security, as you asked a few questions from there. And maybe I could be a little less nervous. So that is what I feel.
Well, being little nervous is okay, and you are only little nervous, at least going by the appearance. So you're not very nervous that way, so that's good. See, Prashant, it is your first attempt, and you are here in the first attempt, which is obviously says a lot about you, which is the board members will also be able to notice. And by and large, you're a good candidate. So I will not be giving you detailed things what you are good at. You are good at most things, right? So that considered taken. So I'll be focusing only a few areas where a little advice can be given. Your entry is good. Your sitting posture by and large is okay. See, we've been advising the male candidates especially to occupy only as much space as they're entitled to. Don't spread. Okay. That applies a bit to you also. But in general, you are taking the enough space only. But maybe having your legs a little closer will make you more formal.
Sure.
And more just. Right? It happens. Women's candidates are taking lesser space than they're entitled. Men are spreading and taking more space than they're entitled. I will take, right? So that is one area you can work on. But I'm not very sure that they'll be actually having that gender audit there. But it's always nice to be that way. Prashant, there are very, very good things about you. One is your analysis. Sitting posture by and large is okay. Your voice level in general is okay. Though at a few places it appears the voice become a little low.
Okay.
So you can raise your volume level.
Sure.
So that is one area you can work on. But going overall, you're doing most things right. What my critical advice is that you need to understand that you have a certain kind of a background.
Yes.
Most of the aspects of these background are positive and will be taken positively. But there are a few areas where the board members will have apprehensions about.